So I'm a 3D Zelda speedrunner, primarily Twilight Princess, Breath of the Wild, and Ocarina of Time. And I will be submitting Breath of the Wild Amiibo any percent. This is going to be a post-commentary of a run that I did previously. Without further ado, let's get started. So we'll be starting here in 3, 2. Now, Breath of the Wild any percent is a fast category. It's about half an hour long. Any percent is, or sorry, the Amiibo version of any percent is the optimal route to do, though that does come at the cost of a little bit of RNG. There, you save about 20 to 30 seconds over doing no Amiibo, but you introduce some RNG in the fish that you get from scanning your Amiibo, where no Amiibo does not have that much RNG, though there is some RNG shared across the entire run, regardless of Amiibo or not. You get rid of a major RNG point at the cost of having some, well, one, being slower, but also having some extra tech to do, extra strats, and it kind of just makes the run arguably harder. Now, we're going to be getting into the run here in just a moment. The actual run is very quick paced. The beginning of the run starts out very quickly paced. Now we're going to first grab our sheet of slate, which is required across every single run. Then we are going to do a clip called a scope clip, which requires the sheet of slate. So what a scope clip is basically if you align Link next to some thin geometry, like luckily the walls of Shrine of Resurrection are, and have him facing exactly opposite in a corner, and open the scope, which is part of the sheet of slate, then it clips you out of bounds. So we're going to jump up here and quickly clip out of bounds, which is very nice. Not the easiest thing to do because that geometry that Link's standing on isn't flat. Link slips, so you do have to run him into a corner until he clips, which adds a bit of difficulty to the trick, but we are safely out of bounds, and because this is a Switch era game, Nintendo makes it so we have to clip back in bounds to there's two-sided collision, not just one-sided like many of the Zelda games in the past. So we're going to run over and grab some supplies that we'll need for the Great Plateau and for just the rest of the run. So grabbing some safety food, and the shield, the only shield that we use optimally for the whole run, and a Boko Sphere, which helps us get through the entirety of the Great Plateau quite a bit. I'm going to run over to the Temple of Time now, doing some shield surfing, just because it's a little bit faster to do so. Watching this short cutscene here, the next thing that we're going to do is something called a skew clip, or a shield clip. So what is skew? I'll show you here in just a second. We're going to jump over, and we're going to have Link ride on the shield as I land on that slanted surface. That is getting something called skew. So what skew actually is when you get that, then when you do a forward shield jump, you have suddenly have a couple of frames where Link tilts to the side. And those are your skew frames. Now that allows you to clip through some thin geometry like the window that I clipped through before. Now here we're doing something called BLSS, which is a bow lift smuggle slide. So we did a trick called smuggling, where we got the pot stuck to Link's arm while you had the bow out, and that enabled us to wiggle and hover through the air using that same skew from before. We can flip into the bomb shrine very quickly. We'll see a lot of BLSSing later, and I'll explain it more as it comes up. There is just a lot to go through in this first segment here. So we're going to now grab the bomb root. We're going to want to cancel our ragdoll, but we don't want to cancel skew. We want to cancel both ragdoll and skew. So ragdoll, the ragdoll effect, ragdoll glitch as it's called, is the typical effect that you would see popularized in Skyrim, but present in almost every game, where if you get hit by, an explosion or something, you kind of fall all the way down. Ragdoll glitch is just kind of snapping and stopping after that. So we're going to, right here in this spot, we're going to do something called a wind bomb, but we're going to need to cancel that state first. That's what we do with that shield jump there. Now lining up this wind bomb here, which is basically using the explosion of that circle bomb to knock the square bomb into Link, and hit Link with that. Link then gets that momentum. That launches us all the way over here, and we're able to very quickly finish the first shrine, getting the bomb. Now, immediately moving on to the next segment, the first thing that we're doing here is the first splitting. The first thing that we do is a bit of lag manipulation. So the load screens are normally quite laggy. We can skip this cutscene, but if we do it at a specific time, like now, then the load through this loading screen is just faster. Next, we're going to do a quick little sequence with the old man, and then we're going to get rid of that RNG that I mentioned earlier and just get it out of the way. And we're going to scans for some fish. So we're going to immediately after getting out of this text prompt, which will be in a little bit, we're going to scan Amiibos for specific fish. We want our combination of Mighty Carp and Mighty Porgy to give us the level 3 attack up food for the very end of the run. And this is just something for the very end of the run. It gives us the maximum attack buff that we can get, minus a crit buff, where we can, actually complete the fights completely quickly. Getting a little bit unlucky on the first scan. The first scan had a Porgy in it. There is another Porgy there. And grabbing some Hyrule Bass, that's just a little bit safe. Now, you can just go ahead and go with 2 Porgy. It does mean you have to grab a Razor Shroom in Hyrule Castle. And taking that, we're going to do another BLSS. So what we're doing is, while we have the shield out, if we hold the bow and pick up that bomb on the same rough timing, so the animations coincide, that pulls the bow and sticks the bomb to Link's arm. That's how we do the smuggling. Then pulling the bow again and holding the B button enables us to do what is called bow lift smuggle slide, which then, by wiggling back and forth, we're trying to now clip into the map shrine here. A little bit of difficulty with the skew. There we go. And we're in. So that state that we were in for BLSS before, basically the bomb that is stuck to Link is progressively pushing him. And so if we wiggle Link to the sides, then he will build up extra speed because you're pushing into the bomb and it's pushing you back out. So we're getting momentum in the opposite direction of where you're facing as you are pushed out. But because we can't get unstuck, we can just keep adding it. There is a cap before it actually stops working, but that's the basic premise. The Mag Shrine is a very easy shrine. Basic shrine to go through. It's just running through and getting the Magnesis rune. Now, the next thing that we're going to do here as we're running through, as I mentioned before, we did forward shield jump to clear Ragdoll and retain. Sorry, clear Ragdoll and skew. What we want to do here is we want to clear Ragdoll and retain skew. So dodging the laser there, how we're going to do that is we're going to use something called one-shot protection. Slipping in there before it closes on us. And we blow ourselves up with the bomb using, because we're at full health, one-shot protection. The game has a built-in protection to actually not die from getting hit by your own bomb at full health, because that would be annoying. And doing that, we do clear Ragdoll, but we do retain that skew, which is very nice. So now moving on to the Stasis Shrine, we're going to do yet another BLSS. So first we're going to run up here, climb up, and we're going to do that same thing where we, with the shield out, pick up the bomb while pulling out the bow, unequip the shield, and start wiggling. Now this is the tightest BLSS in the run, because we need to fit in this thin little tunnel here and not run into anything. And very nicely done. We go all the way across here. We're going to and then we need to weave through these trees. We're going all the way to the farthest birch tree there. And we're going to climb it in a specific spot for one of the hardest, but one of the coolest wind bombs in the run, called Tree Wind Bomb, where you line yourself up and do a little bit of delay on the square bomb to get a lot of height to launch ourselves just barely up onto the lip of the cliff and going immediately into the Magnesis Shrine. Then we need to flip back into the shrine, of course, to actually enter it. The next thing that we're going to do, well, after we get Stasis room, is we're going to do yet another wind bomb. This one is going to launch us across the shrine, smack us against the actual monk pedestal, because we need to stop ourselves. There is basically a floating pedestal we want to land on where the monk is, and if we have a bad angle or anything, we just kind of void and have to retry or do a different strat that doesn't do the wind bomb at all. The fastest thing to do is the wind bomb, and we'll do that here. First we have to use stasis on that gear, go over, we need to clear skew for magnesis later, which I didn't quite do there. Lining up, doing a ragdoll fix, and nicely done. A little bit of an awkward setup to properly clear ragdoll and be able to do the wind bomb, but getting that wind bomb nonetheless. Alright, so this next thing is going to be something that we haven't actually explained yet, because we just got the stasis room. We're doing something called a stasis launch, which is one of the oldest tech in Breath of the Wild. You build up the momentum of the item that is stasis by smacking it a bunch and then redirecting the momentum with an arrow shot that's going to let us go straight up this cliff here. We're going to do that arrow shot in a specific spot, and then let that cancel, grab onto the ledge, and we're already up there. Very nicely done. I'm going to blow up this tree to do another BLSS. This will get us over to the Cryonis Shrine. This is tight in a different way because there's a lot of turning that we need to do around the geometry here. It's a little bit difficult to do and getting stuck a bit, but still not having the most difficulty, just not the fastest BLSS there is. Still being able to successfully get over to the Cryonis Shrine. We're going to climb up here and do something called an extended shield clip. So we're going to get skew in a very specific spot with a specific angle. We're going to clip and then on a specific frame buffer to realign the angle. When you're on a specific frame like that, if you hold the A button and do a second clip, then you can go in through that two-sided collision through both sides. It is frame perfect, not the easiest to do, very nicely done. And we're into the Cryonis Shrine pretty simply. Now in here we're just going to grab the rune, and then instead of doing the navigation through the shrine where you use the Cryonis rune to solve puzzles, navigate through the rune, and do all of that, we have bombs and this thing called a wind bomb that I explained earlier, because we just want to get to the top So we're just going to launch ourselves to the top, which is simply done. And we'll do this in a moment. First, we again have to clear that ragdoll that we've been talking about pretty much the entire time, and line up in a pretty specific spot, but just do a basic front hot wind bomb, and we are all ready for the final strike. And that basically concludes the Great Plateau. We need to head over to get the actual paraglider and be able to go off of the plateau, but that is basically it. And to do that, we'll see that here in just a moment. Again, delaying that skip on the cutscene to manipulate the lag that we get. We're going to do yet another BLSS. They're very pivotal in the run to get over to the Temple of Time you see there in just, well, now it's off screen, but in the bottom right, or sorry, just to the right there. We need to head over there and get the paraglider from the old man that we're talking to right now, because he won't just give it to us right here for some reason. So we're going to stand back a little bit so that the bomb doesn't just fall right off. We're going to do that same smuggling, put the bomb on our arm, step up while holding the B button, which does the same thing, and wiggle our way to victory. Now we're going to do something called a fall damage cancel here. So we're going to use that throw animation and unequipping the shield, or equipping the shield, it's the same either way. That will give us it will basically return our state to say, hey, this is the height that we started the fall at, so we no longer take the damage that we would have taken before. Which, very cool. It means that we don't take any actual damage while falling. Not the most relevant, because we just got the paraglider and we can instead use the paraglider, but yeah. So we're going to do another BLSS. This is going to take us over to the castle. It's the longest BLSS in the run, and needs to be held for a decent amount of time and angle ourselves in a kind of specific manner. So we're going to be careful to not hit that speed cap from before, and angle ourselves where we want to go at the castle. The next thing that we're going to deal with at the castle is there is a gate that it is quite literally random. The load order of the game is random as to whether or not this gate will be loaded or not. So if the gate is loaded, it's got a pretty simple workaround. We just go around, but it loses about 20 to 30 seconds, which is pretty unfortunate to just happen to randomness. It's some of that RNG that I was mentioning before that is regardless of the run of Breath of the Wild that you do. The actual amount of loading that you see doesn't have any bearing on that. It's just random what gets loaded. Luckily, the gate is not loaded, so we just run right through. And in this semi-unloaded room, we're going to jump down and we're going to go past the moblin here and collect the Royal Claymore, sneak up on it, and smack it. After the room fully loads, that triggers the cutscene that's supposed to happen when you just walk up to the castle, and then return our game state to the spot that it was in. So the moblin is dead. We take the other Claymore from it, the Royal Guard's Claymore, and we're going to grab that Razor Shroom that I mentioned before. That is for the food. Now you may be wondering why the game is in German. First of all, we're going to grab a Nadris scale here, just going to boost our attack up food to last about 15 minutes. which is way more than what we need, but is a very safe thing to do for a marathon style run. It is doable without that, but it is very, very safe to do it with it. So you may be wondering why it's in German. German actually isn't the fastest language, that'd be French. German is the second fastest language, slower by a couple of frames, and it's more pleasant to listen to, in my opinion. So, some say save the frames, I say save my ears. The French voice actors are not the greatest. Sorry, France. We're going to cook that food, and we get a 13.5-minute potion, but it's attack up level 3. That is what is crucial for the run. There is a way to move around this room without blowing up that light, but because I didn't do strat on the moblin earlier, I just kind of shoot that eye instead. It's a little give or take. Something not most runners do, and something that I don't really do that often, but when the moblin earlier is behaving, it is something that I will tend to do. So we're going to do another front hop wind bomb here. We're going to do something similar to tree wind bomb earlier, get us over to Zelda's Zelda's bedroom. Zelda's study's across the way there. And wait for things to load. There's another mob. We're going to attract its attention over there, and we're going to sneak strike it. And we're going to grab the Royal Guard's bow, as well as some extra arrows, and then the Edge of Duality that mob is holding. And make our way over to the Sanctum to start the final fights. We're going to do that by coming up and doing a wind bomb from a specific-ish spot to launch ourselves over the blight and over to where we will actually enter the blight fights. Now, the first blight fight, the wind blight, we're actually going to do a skip here. We're going to line up and look at the eagle statue there, and then aim in a specific spot and eat our food, enter the cutscene. We're going to watch a skippable cutscene, not this first one, we're going to skip this first one, but this second one is the wind blight spawning cutscene. This is skippable, but the arrow is currently suspended in wind blight, and you see him wiggling there. We're going to see some more wiggles. He's constantly getting hit by that arrow, and it's damaging him, and immediately kills wind blight until wind blight skip. On to water blight. We are going to do some just basic damage strats, try to do the fight as quickly as possible. There are things called double hits, where if we're in a specific spot, not getting them on the water blight, first phase at least, double hits will, well, as the name implies, hit twice, which is of course fast. The second phase of water blight here is more in the air, so we're going to use the bow to knock it down and smack it with the little claymore. I'm going to shoot 1, 2. We're going to spin and slam. Now, there are 2 spots that water blight can spawn. He always alternates between those 2 spots. So we simply shoot some arrows as he's down to preserve some vector ability, and he's down. Fire blight is one of the more annoying ones because it has a bit of a specific timing on when you slam down to actually end the phase. Let's see if I can get the 1 cycle. I do not quite. Have 1 attack off. Getting hit a little bit, it's fine. We're mostly in 1-shot range anyways during the entirety of these fights, so taking any damage that doesn't kill us is rare and not the biggest deal because most stuff kills us anyways. So eating some food because I want that one-shot protection back for things like Fireblight's Fire, or a little bit of the Calamity fight. There's some residual damage that we can take that I don't want to just die to. And we're going to spin, see if I can get the one cycle on Fireblight here. Not quite. Again, one tick off. Very tight one cycle to get, but not the biggest deal to fit. Thunderblight, the last of the blights, is a relatively scripted fight, though it is the hardest of blight fights. We're going to break the shield, spin on it 3 times, slam down, and then we're going to spin again and slam down, and we're going to throw the Royal Claymore, breaking it, ending the first phase. Very nicely done. What that does, if we end the first phase while it's in that throwing the lightning ball state, then that actually manipulates how it starts the second phase of the fight, which lets us have a scripted fight for the second phase too. So we're going to put down, after the 4th one of the little magnet things that gets put down by Thunderblight, we can knock it down by breaking its shield and shooting an arrow, and then smacking it around with the Edge of Duality and ending the phase. Oh, not quite. And ending the phase easily. Calamity Ganon is a pretty difficult fight, so we're going to first slam a bunch of these ancient arrows into him, just to damage him down as quickly as possible. Then get him to slam down, run away over to the bomb arrows, not getting far enough away to trigger a laser, unfortunately. Means that we go for some flurry rushes with the boomerang here. Running away, grabbing another Royal Claymore. He does give us a laser, but we're going to just slam some of these bomb arrows into him until our bow breaks. Trigger that flurry rush again, but not actually do anything with it, because we can get a laser out and parry the laser, slam with the Royal Guard's Claymore, and it should end going to the wall. So a little bit of bad RNG there. So we're going to equip that original bow that we got way back at the beginning of the run that we ideally don't use, but it's nice for some backup. And Calamity Ganon is about 1 or 2 hits right now, playing a little bit safe so that I don't just die. If I get a flurry rush, then the first phase will just be over. I'm going to get hit in the fire a little bit, but ending the phase at the very least. Now in phase 2 of Firelight Calamity, literally everything can kill me. Luckily, getting a laser immediately, parrying it, that's very good. There's a stun lock that we can do, and we're going to take the Edge of Duality, attack twice, jump cancel, and start slamming down. And as we throw that, pull out that Royal Claymore, we should be in a full stun lock here and be able to finish the fight as easily as just repeating these same steps. It's a little specific on how to do this, though not too hard to perform after you know what you're doing. There are a lot of moving steps, but none of them very difficult, so it makes for something that is harder to learn, maybe a medium difficulty trick, but after you have it down, you have it down. So Calamity Ganon going down very readily. Moving on to the final bit of the run, the Dark Beast phase. Dark Beast phase is we grab the Bow of Light, and we're going to just run around for a little bit, basically. This is basically a victory lap. We're going to have Zelda spawn some light spots, light targets on Ganon. We're going to shoot them with the Bow of Light that Zelda gave us until he reveals his weak point, and then we shoot him in the eye, and then we're going this over. So timing will be coming up here in just a couple of minutes. we'll see in just a moment those light spots that I was talking about. You end up going to, they spawn on consistent spots, going a little bit early. Going in bullet time, shooting right at those light targets, missing one of them. There we go. And moving on. Now, moving to Ganon's front here, basically we want to manipulate the side that he turns to. We're going to be staying on one side for just a little bit. And that's going to manipulate how he turns. That's why I stop right there. He turns to his right. This makes him point the side that is going to have the targets on it next directly at us. Lining up to get a pretty specific spot. So we can easily shoot those targets and missing the second one. Or, sorry, final one. Next, it's going to spawn underneath Ganon. So we're going to go underneath Ganon. And wait for it to spawn here. It's going to take a little bit. It's the second to last hit. So after we shoot this spot, this close to a fallen time, it's a very fun run, very quick run, a lot of combat, a lot of fun movement tech. Very cool showcase. Missing again. Then we're going to go out the front here. It's going to spawn over Ganon's head. So we need to enter bullet time, so we're going to stay on the horse here. And do a little wiggles. Zelda opens up his weak spot, and it spawns the eye. As the eye comes out, I'm going to flip off of the horse and enter bullet time, and that is time. Nice, simple run, quick run, very fun to showcase, very fun to perform. Yeah, that's Breath of the Wild N%, the Amiibo version. Very cool run, very fun to do, and yeah, thank you.